Welcome to Larford Lakes. We're here at this fantastic complex for the final of the Golden Reel competition. There have been 24 qualifiers on a variety of venues up and down the country, and this is the final of all of those qualifiers. Each winner from those qualifiers are here today to compete for £50,000, and this film is going to take you through all the twists and turns. The forecast was that there was going to be little wind and it was flat calm on arrival. There were fish everywhere. These conditions obviously lend themselves to fishing shallow, and when the fish are shallow they obviously give themselves away. It was very clear that there were loads of fish down in the early numbers, just laid underneath the surface, but the match was 3 hours away, so anything could happen. There were 26 anglers in this final, however there were 4 blockers. Those blockers were basically there to take away the end peg advantage, and the blockers were there to draw first, and then once they drew for their end pegs, it was then a case of the 26 competitors drawing out for their pegs.
Right, we're drawing you in the qualification order. And we're starting with number 1, which was Saturday the 11th of April here at Larford Lakes. He won the match with £170 and 12 ounces, Paul Carnwell. Give him a round of applause.
Within just a few short minutes the draw was done. There were 1 or 2 anglers fancying their draw, however there were some that didn't quite fancy their draw. But on a match like this you never really know where the fish are going to settle, so all the competitors headed off to their pegs. The match times for this match were going to be 12 until 5, and as you can imagine, when you're fishing as late as 5 o'clock, then that really lends itself to margin fishing, so this match was going to go right to the wire. Well, my role for the day was just basically to stay on the bank, and I was producing several live streams throughout the match just to update people who couldn't attend the event, just to let them know how the match was going. Phil Briscoe's role was basically to base himself at the stage, and he was getting information from spotters on the bank who were letting him know as and when fish were being caught around the lake, and he could then relay that over the tannoy to let the competitors and spectators know what had been caught. The first hour was slow as expected, however 1 or 2 anglers did emerge as clear leaders. Well, we are 1.5 hours in and we've already got 1 or 2 clear leaders. Looking up the lake, he definitely seems to be fishing better at that top end of the lake. I'm currently now behind, this is peg 3 behind me. Andy Powers is there. He's just had he hasn't had a flurry of fish, but he's just had a few fish. He's had, I think he's got 6 fish now. 4 or 5 of them are decent fish. He's just ticking over nicely. He's doing well at this end of the lake. The lad opposite him, he's catching, well, he's caught a few. Other than that, it's a little bit slow, to be fair. However, at this top end, looking up the lake into the sunshine, up there we have got Kevin Wadge, who's doing well on the end peg. He's next to Jordan Holloway, who's also doing well. But then the other side of the island, you've got Stuart Fotheringham, who was admitting to £55 about 10 minutes ago, so he's doing really well. Other than that, everyone else is just kind of picking off odd fish. It's we expected a slow start, and that's what it is. You know, there's the odd F1's been caught, the odd proper carp, Some anglers seem to be targeting the silverfish as well, and they're just ticking over with silverfish, but to be fair, they're not exactly catching enough to put any sort of a weight together just yet. We're fishing 12 till 5 today, so we're expecting things to get busier as the match goes on. We're expecting the sport to pick up. Certainly fishing until 5 o'clock, you expect fish to come down these margins, and this lake is known for that, and we know that obviously the fish run well into double figures, so it's going to run right to the wire on this one. At the moment though, we've got Kevin after an hour and a half. We've got Kevin Wise is up there. We've also got Jordan Holloway doing well, and then we've also got Stuart Fotheringham over on the other side of the island. All three of those incidentally are catching on the method feeder, but like I said, all three anglers are actually on the island, which is obviously it can be a huge fish holding area, but just for the time being, everyone's just kind of biding the time, picking off fish where they can, and they're hoping that the second half is going to be much better. The interesting thing was that those anglers who caught early managed to keep putting the odd fish in the net, and that just kept them in front. By the midway stage, it was clear that there were 3 or 4 anglers that were leading the competition, and if they could keep putting fish in the net, just ticking over, they should be able to keep themselves in front, where the other anglers who had a slower start, they were really hoping they were going to get a late run of fish late on down the margins. Welcome back everybody. We are over on the Burbank. End peg blocker it says here. Another good fish. He must have got a great weight now. He's one of the regular anglers, doing really well. But we're going to find out how the lads actually in the competition are getting on over here. As you can see, it's still flat calm here. That's another good fish. He must have a good weight now. Right, here we go. Peg 14. This is Andy Christie, and he's been catching quite well. Last time we were over here, he was fishing in exactly the same spot. As you can see, he's on his top kit, fishing virtually behind him against the bank underneath that very inviting bush. He's had some fish there, so we think he's doing better than what we originally thought. Not quite sure what weight he's got, but he must be one of the leaders now, certainly in the top 5 he must be. So he's been catching quite well down that left hand margin. Stu Fotheringham has been doing well all day, and he just keeps picking off fish, which must be keeping him certainly in the top 2 or 3. He's back on the method feeder. He's not really come off it. Every time we've been around, he's been on the method feeder, but last time he was underarming onto a long pole line where he caught a couple of fish. Whereas you probably saw just then, he's back against the island, and we know he's just had probably 3 or 4 fish since we were last here. So he just keeps picking off fish. It's going to make him very, very difficult to beat today if he keeps doing that, unless someone has a mega run of fish late on. But that is exactly what can happen on this sort of a venue. So Stuart, he's on peg 15. I haven't seen him go anywhere near his margin yet. Maybe he won't even need to. He's pinging pellets out there, as you can see, off the front edge of the island. I don't know if he's caught on that line. But yeah, it's he's going to be very hard to beat if he continues picking off fish like that. This one along, we've got Alex Walker. Not really seeing Alex catch too many. He's got a lovely left-hand margin here. He's got some lilies there, and obviously a platform. Let's see where he's fishing at the moment. Most anglers now are targeting the margin. Just going to keep back away from this edge. Yeah, he's down his left-hand margin as well. If we look down to the right, we've now got Barry Mason. As you can see, he's fishing down this margin, up against the side of this platform. Barry's had a couple of fish recently, but I know early on he was struggling. It's gone very, very quiet now. It's funny, it keeps going in spells, you know, you keep going 15, 20 minutes without fish being caught, and then all of a sudden there's another flurry. There we go, Stu Fotheringham's just hooked another fish there, as you can see, and he's struggling with it out there. He's just come right to the top out there where he's hooked it. I don't know if there's anything out there that would suggest that there was something out there, the way that he stood up to play that. He's got the rod up in the air again now. So I don't know if there's any sort of anything down on the bottom, or whether it's twigs, branches or anything like that, but he's got it away from that, whatever it is. I'll just stop here to hopefully see him land this fish. Yeah, so it looks like there's something out there that's interfering with his rig and stuff when he hooks fish. But he's got that away anyway, so playing it down to his left, as you can imagine, because down to his right he's got that big lily bed there, which he'll want to keep it away from there. But he's going to be very hard to beat. He's been so consistent throughout today's match. The fish hooked here down the margin. Alex Walker. That fish is powering out of the peg. Sounds a good fish. What Stuart's got, just got it near the net, then it just powered straight out. This one here that Alex is playing a shot straight out into the middle of the lake. And it's pulled out. Possibly foul hooked, I don't know. Unfortunately he's lost that. Stuart Fotheringham still playing his fish. Still got plenty of power left in it. I can hear the reel back winding. It sounded a good fish. Nothing being caught behind me down to the right. It's very quiet down this burbank at the moment. Very quiet, unless they're catching at the bottom end. Let's see if Stu can land this fish. Sounds a very powerful fish, that one. Stuart is a former winner of this event. I think it's obvious to say he'd love to win it again, but when he drew this peg, I know one or two people fancied him on this peg. I think some people have made 1 or 2 wagers with the bookies on him. He's got it. He's going to be very difficult to beat. I'm going to stick my neck out and say I think he must be leading by now.
And again, is it?
Stuart Fotheringham on peg 15, playing another fish. Stuart Fotheringham.
You probably just heard that Stuart Fotheringham's just had another fish. He's keeping himself right up there. I'm just working my way back up the grass bank now. I've just been watching Andy Power down there on peg 1, who was struggling earlier. However, he's gone down his left hand margin, and you know, when he's feeding, there are fish there. And if anybody can kind of capitalise on an opportunity like that, then Andy is certainly one of those anglers. I really think Andy's going to kind of make a lot of ground up now. It's just turned 3 o'clock, so there are 2 hours left, and that is when you'd expect a margin like that to come strong. So I think Andy is going to make quite a bit of a comeback now. So the news so far, with 2 hours to go, is basically this top end is still dominating. If I swing round, Stu Fotheringham is over there opposite the island. He's just ticking over. He had a great start. He was admitting to probably £60, but I think he's had 2 fish since then. And then further up here on this bank, on the grass bank opposite the island, the 2 anglers that are standing out there are Kevin Wadge and Jordan Holloway. I mean, Kevin's just ticked over. Jordan keeps kind of, he had a spell early, then it just went really quiet for over an hour, and then he just had another little quick burst of fish as well. So it looks at the minute like they are the... Steve Openshaw, he's had a lot of silvers as well, Steve Openshaw. Lee Edwards has caught a few fish as well, but at the minute it sounds like they're the standout. Well, the 3 anglers really are still. It's Stu Fotheringham over on the other bank, Jordan Holloway, and the other is Kevin Wadge. So they're the 3 at the minute that are standing out, still going into this final 2 hours. Well, there's just over an hour left, and to be honest, we expected more margin fish being caught. There are fish down the margins, however, lots of anglers are actually feeding down the margins, certainly over on the grass bank, which is over there, where it's very, very shallow close in. They're feeding there with the pole cups, and they're fishing there with the pole, and you can see the fish there. There are lots of fish in that shallow water, but they are proving very, very difficult to catch. Within the last 40 minutes, I bet we've only seen about 4 fish caught down the margin. But there are loads of fish there, so whether those fish are going to switch on and suddenly start feeding, we don't know. we quite often see that it's amazing. As soon as the nets come out after the match, that's when fish come really close in. Hopefully that's not going to happen today. Hopefully the fish are going to come in on the feed and let some anglers accumulate more weight. But there's just over an hour left. Just about to head down the Burbank and just find out what's actually been caught down here. But at the minute the same names are still in the front. It sounds like it's Stu Fotheringham. Kevin Wadge is doing well. We think Jordan Holloway's doing well as well. Other than that, while some of the other anglers, certainly big name anglers, Andy Powers, Andy Bennett, they haven't quite caught as many as these guys. So some of these lads must have probably 70-80 pound now. But anything can happen going into this last hour. As we headed into the final 45 minutes, it was clear that it had become quite hectic for some of the competitors. We're into the last 35 minutes, and as predicted, it's got a little bit hectic. It looked like Stu Fotheringham was winning the competition quite easily. He was saying he was on 120 pounds. That was up to about 20 minutes ago. However,
on peg 14 and Stuart Fotheringham on peg 15, both landing fish.
There we go. So they're still catching fish. Andy Christie is on the left of Stu Fotheringham, so they've caught really well over there. Certainly, you're getting the picture now that there's lots of fish being caught now. I'm currently behind Perry Stone, who's been struggling. He's just hooked 2 in 2 drop-ins. They're feeding down the margins now. There are fish bubbling for the feed. It's only that deep in these margins on grass bank. There are fish there, and it's evident now that some of them are going on the feed. Andy Power was really struggling, but over the last hour and a half since he went down his margin, he started to creep back into it, but he's literally just had 3 more fish. And he's just had a couple of fish down his margin again, so he's slowly dragging himself back up.
Andy Bennett into another fish.
Andy Bennett, that is 3. That's 3 fish in the last 10 minutes for Andy Bennett. So it's going to be a very hectic 30 minutes now. It still looks like Stu Fotheringham's probably in the lead, but Andy Power has been catching up. Andy's down behind me. You're getting the idea now from the tannoy from Phil Briscoe, who's announcing fish as they're getting hooked and landed. Andy Powers is down here on peg 1. And he's gradually getting back into it. Andy's just landed that fish now. This is where the experience of some of these commercial anglers is. This is where the experienced anglers are really going to come into it now, keeping the cool, trying to land these fish quickly but efficiently, make sure they land them, because these are very, very important. And let's face it, some of these lads have been struggling for the last 3 hours, so to suddenly get a run of fish like this, they've got to have pretty much the mentality that, you know, they've just got to stay cool, calm, and make sure that they land every fish and fish right the way up to 5 p.m. It had been a really hectic last 45 minutes, and 1 or 2 anglers had really shot up the leading table, so we thought it was between 4 key anglers that Andy Power was in the running. We thought Andy Bennett was in the running. Kevin Wadge had managed to tick over steadily from his early lead, and then there was obviously Stu Fotheringham. So the live weighing was really focused on those anglers.
Well, that was an incredible last 45 minutes. It was like a completely different venue. As you've just seen from the live stream, it was just hectic. You could hear the tannoy from Phil announcing the number of fish that were getting hooked. Not all landed, unfortunately, for some anglers, but that just goes to show that, you know, sometimes by having events like this that run, you know, between the hours of 12 and 5 can make a big difference. You know, sometimes when matches finish at 3 and 4, sometimes the fish just haven't moved in, and that last 45 minutes, it's been like a completely different venue. It's been the finish that we wanted. We don't know if, you know, anyone's kind of done enough to catch those leaders, but it's been great to see that some anglers who have, to be quite honest, have really struggled. They've had a bit of a poor match. They've managed to put some fish in the net and at least, you know, hopefully enjoy their day and their experience. But, you know, because you always want anglers to at least have a day's fishing. But, I mean, the word on the street is that Stu Fotheringham has got the top weight. You know, he had a very steady lead, or he was right up there with the leaders, but he kept on putting fish in the net, whereas other people that were around him that had caught the same amount kind of stopped catching. They just had some really blank spells, and he just carried on putting fish in the net. He's fishing on different lines, just kept putting a fish in the net, and that possibly has kept him in front. Andy Powers has had a bit of a run of fish. Andy Bennett had a fantastic probably 25-30 minutes where he had something like 9 in 9 drops, incredible, but then he lost 3 fish, which completely ruined his swim. but that's what happens when you're fishing like this, close to margins, in shallow water for big fish. So we're going to have the weigh-in now. We're going to do the weigh-in as one complete live stream, which we'll obviously be showing you footage of, and that will obviously give you a taster for what everyone's caught. Because we know some of the numbers of fish, we don't always necessarily know the size or weight, so that's going to be very, very interesting. The first to weigh in was Andy Power. That wind never really got going today. We thought it was going to get stronger. It was blowing down here at one stage, but we can't really say it's affected the fishing, because they still caught fish even when it was flat calm. And there were fish down here this morning when it was flat calm as well.
Peg one, Andy Power, £122 5 ounce.
£122. Well done, Andy. That late run was obviously better than what we thought it was going to be. Like I say, we only heard the number of fish. We didn't know what size they were. The fish now. The next angler that we thought was in contention was Andy Bennett, and he was just a little bit further along the grass bank. Proper gear on. They know the best techniques for landing them. They're landing fish quickly, and you don't realise how big they are sometimes. So that's going to be two ways, just that one net. So he's got skimmers in that last net there in the middle one. So this is his biggest bag.
136.15. Well done.
Well done, Andy. Well done, mate. £136 he's ended up weighing. Absolutely fantastic. The next angler that we knew had caught some fish was Kevin Wadge, and he was just on the far end of the island, leading the competition at one stage. He was casting to the back. If you saw the streams earlier, he was casting to the back of the island. Initially he was casting to where my finger is now, just off the back edge of that island. But then when that slowed down, he then just inched it over to this bush here and had another run of fish there. But then I think he's caught some shorter, but not at the end. It really slowed down for him towards the end. Whether the fish moved, we don't know, but he slowed down catching for whatever reason. Some good fish in there though. We could tell the way he was playing the fish, how long it was taking him to land them, that they were of a good stamp. Just shows you, doesn't it? You know, once your peg goes 101, fantastic. Well done, Kev. £101 too. The next key angler to weigh in was Stuart Fotheringham. We know he caught loads of fish, but had he done enough to stay in front? Who we strongly suspect to be the winner. Claiming or admitting to £170. That's a heavy net of fish. So we were talking about £170. So we'll find out how accurate that estimate is. 32.6 on that first weigh. Well, not counting that first silverfish net. Again, a good stamp of fish. Not seeing many F1s, to be honest. Lots and lots of proper carp. Another very big net of fish, heavy net of fish.
£50.7.
Fantastic. Brilliant. What's that, Jules? 174. Absolutely fantastic. £174 now. That £170 estimate weren't bad, were it? 174.
Come on. He's in, Boris.
Well, there's your leader so far, £174. Well, what an exciting weigh-in that was. Completely. We thought it was going to be a surprise. You know, when lads have gone like 2 and 3 hours really struggling and then they get a late run of fish, sometimes it's really difficult to predict what sort of a weight they've got, and that's exactly what's happened. So there have been quite a few surprise weights, but the average weight has been really, really good. There ended up being loads of fish caught, albeit for lots of anglers in that last 45 minutes. Stu Fotheringham was saying, or they were estimating, that he'd got £170, and as it turns out, that estimate was very, very accurate. So all the competitors are now over on Grassbank now. We're here in front of the stage where Phil Briscoe is just about to join us, where we are just about to announce the result and present a £50,000 cheque to a new Golden Reel champion.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. I mean, we're all shattered. But at the end of the day, it's exactly what was predicted. It was a difficult match for sort of 2.5 hours. Those that have got a few bonus fish early, great. But it became pretty evident that it was going to be a 3 or 4 horse race, basically. And the fishing in the last hour and a half was absolutely phenomenal. I personally was trying to keep up with the fish catching, and I couldn't. You know, as quickly as I announced somebody catching the fish, there was somebody else landing one, somebody else landing one. Last hour was just absolutely out of this world. And you know, it wasn't a massive runaway victory. It became quite close, where any 3 or 4 anglers could have won that today. But the good thing was there were some great weights. Everybody's thoroughly enjoyed it. The weather was kind, and just a fantastic day.
Yeah, thanks Phil, been great commentary throughout today, obviously letting us know what's been happening on the bank, and we've had loads turn up as well, haven't we, loads of spectators?
Yeah, I mean, you know, perhaps next year a few more would be nice, because I think it lifts the anglers, you know, puts them all on the edge of the seats and everything else, and they're missing a great day. They would have seen today world champions, top class anglers performing back to back with each other, and it's a really interesting watch. Fishing isn't a boring sport. They can learn a lot, and they can pick up a lot of tips, and they would have enjoyed today if they come along. So next year, come along.
Yeah, nice one, thanks Phil.
Thank you.
We'll be advertising.
First, second and third. Right. In third place, collecting £2,000 is Andy Power. Well done, Andy. Another envelope off me, but not the one you wanted. But well done, mate. Absolutely fantastic. Check your check to make sure I made it out right. Seriously. Right, in second place, picking up £3,000 was Andy Bennett. Well done, Andy. Better knock down the face of the wet kicker, innit? There you go, 3,000, mate. And your medal. Whoop, your medal. Just check I've made it out correctly. And the winner today, picking up £50,000 and the prestigious trophy, second time winner of this event. He's fished an absolute blinder. He was in front virtually all the way through. And he's ended up from peg 42, permanent peg, peg 15 on the day, weighing in £174 and 9 ounces. Stuart Fotheringham! Go on!
Well, there you go, Stuart Fotheringham. He was a favourite. We thought he was winning the competition for quite a while, and it looks like that estimate of £170 was very, very accurate. He's ended up weighing 100. Sorry, his estimate was 170, has had £174. Absolutely amazing. Have you got a minute for us?
Of course I have, yeah.
Here he is.
Oh, the total, Stu.
For the second time.
Yeah, my name's there from first.
Let's get him. Let him get his photograph taken first. have a quick word with him. We did get a chance to see how he was fishing at certain stages of the match, but I'm sure there are some things we might have missed.
Oh, I want that distance from there.
Stu, massive congratulations, mate. Just give us a quick rundown, mate. You started the method to the island, didn't you?
Yeah, and well, I've mugged a fish at the start.
Have you?
I mugged the fish at the start, and then I've just chucked the method island. I've caught on that all day.
Yeah? You chucked on a long pole line as well. Did you catch many there?
Never caught on that.
You never caught on that?
I had 2 casts on that.
Right.
And I've not had a fish on that.
And then back across to the island you caught, and then you've had 3 fish late on in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, down edge. Only because I didn't want to get another hook went out of boxer. I knew it was black down edge. It's been black down there for 2 hours.
Really? You just never had to go down there because you were catching on the method?
I've been winning after probably 50 minutes. I've just kept on catching. Same as the first final.
Is it?
Yeah,
right.
I was winning that after an hour and I've just kept on catching. I didn't even go down the edge that day.
Fantastic.
I've only gone down edge today because I've been broke probably 5 or 6 times and
right.
I just didn't want to get hooked when foul. I just thought I'll go down edge because it was black and I've had 3.
Job done, mate. Absolute massive congratulations, mate.
Cheers.
Enjoy your evening, mate.
Will do, mate.
Well done, pal. It had been an absolutely incredible event. It's been a long journey for some of these anglers to get to this final. And don't forget, this is actually an open event. So if this is something that you'd like to compete in next year, then just make sure you head on over to the goldenreelangling.co.uk website, where that will be telling you the dates and time of when the 2022 tickets go on sale. So that just leaves us to thank everybody who's taking part in this event this year. Thank you to the organisers and Larford Lakes Fisheries, and a massive congratulations to Stuart Fotheringham, who has not only won the competition, but he's actually gone and won it for a second time.